Power, sound, and reliability. These are three words commonly used to describe the holy grail of JDM engines, the Toyota 2JZ. And while the 2JZ is far from the only good inline-six engine out there, it's often touted as the best ever, with the Nissan RB26 right behind it. But the truth is that neither of them deserve that title. It's actually Ford that deserves that title with their Barra engine. And in this video, I'm going to show you why. Let's get into it. Now, if you're watching this video and you've never heard of the Ford Barra, just know you're not alone. Part of the reason automotive enthusiasts don't really know about this engine is because it was only available in Australia and New Zealand. But thanks to big names like Adam LZ using this engine in project cars, it has certainly gained a lot more attention here in the US. Beginning its life in 2002, the Barra was built by Ford Australia with help from Tickford, which is an automotive engineering and testing company. And in Australia, the Ford Falcon is a pretty popular car, and it lasted from 1960 all the way up until 2016. That production run is nearly equal to the Mustangs and surpasses the Camaros. The Falcon was around for a very long time in the land down under, and that takes us to 1998, where Ford had to develop a new engine for the new Falcon that they had coming out the same year. Realistically, this new engine was a development of the single overhead cam straight six engine Ford used in the 1980s and the 1990s. And interestingly enough, things like the bore center are actually the same across all of Ford's old inline-six engines from the 1960s all the way up until the Ford Barra. There's a clear lineage there, and sure, a lot of parts don't interchange, but they're clearly related. I mean, it took them all the way until the 1980s to adopt an aluminum cylinder head rather than a heavy cast iron head, and they didn't even add dual overhead camshafts until 2002, which is something that other quote-unquote great inline-six engines had done much earlier on. And they never even adopted a lightweight aluminum block, instead choosing to stick to burly-ass iron, which is not great in terms of weight, but as you'll see later in the video, it's actually a great thing for this engine. Jumping back to 1998 though, we had the launch of the all-new 6th generation AU Falcon with a bunch of different models, meaning there was basically a Falcon for everyone. And while it was a great car, the unfortunate downside with this new 6th generation Ford Falcon is that the Intech inline-six engine under the hood was kind of outdated and not particularly powerful. And ultimately, Ford Australia knew that they could do better, and they delivered better when they launched the BA Falcon in 2002, and with it came the new Ford Barra engine. The model, which was particularly interesting and immediately became a massive success, is the XR6 Turbo, not to be confused with the XR6 or the XR8, which share the same bodywork. Underneath though, the XR6 Turbo was rather obviously quite a bit different than those other models, with a big old Garrett turbocharger attached to it, bumping power from 244 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque all the way up to 320 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. This new XR6T Falcon was so good and so popular that it won Australia's best car of the year, the best sports car of the year, under $57,000. It was really that good, but of course we didn't get it in the States. And with all that newfound power, the XRT Falcon was able to run the 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds with a 14.3 second quarter-mile time. You might have expected a little bit faster, but to be fair, the Falcon XR6T is kind of a large car. The Falcon in general is kind of a large car. It's not exactly a Honda Civic in terms of the weight category. Plus in 2002, those performance numbers were very, very impressive, but definitely a touch lacking compared to the sports cars of today. All right, that's enough about the cars that had the Barra engine, but it's time to take a look at the Barra, see what actually makes it the Barra. To give you a rundown on some basic information, the Barra is a 4-liter inline-six engine with dual overhead cams, variable valve timing, a cast iron block, cast aluminum cylinder head, and as stated earlier, some variants are turbocharged and some of them are naturally aspirated. Power output ranges from 209 horsepower and 276 pound-feet of torque all the way up to 436 horsepower and 425 pound-feet of torque, but that higher power is for the later special edition models that are extremely hard to get. Throughout the years, there was a lot of additions and small changes to the Barra, but at the end of the day, the Barra from 2002 and the final Barra that they made are really not all that different. Throughout the years, the naturally aspirated Barra received a handful of upgrades that increased its output to 255 horsepower in 2005 and then 261 horsepower in 2011. Now, one thing you might notice about the power figures that I mentioned for the turbo models is that the torque output is absolutely ridiculous, especially compared to something like a JZ or an RB. Getting 425 pound-feet of torque out of an engine that's only making 430 horsepower is very impressive. And that can partially be attributed to the fact that the Barra has a big 4-liter displacement as well as a very long 99mm stroke. For comparison, the 2JZ GTE is only a 3-liter and the RB26 DETT is a 2.6-liter, giving the Barra an upper hand by quite a lot. You might not like it, but the saying there's no replacement for displacement holds a lot of truth. But the unfortunate downside with extra displacement comes extra physical size. And looking more closely at the cylinder head can reveal just how physically massive the Barra is. The head is almost 6 inches longer than a 2JZ head, which really demonstrates how the larger displacement affects physical size of the engine. On the bright side though, at least Ford used a cast aluminum cylinder head rather than a cast iron head to help keep weight down and improve cooling efficiency throughout the head. As we mentioned earlier, this engine features dual overhead cams and 4 valves per cylinder, all of which is driven by a timing chain rather than a timing belt. One really nice feature you'll find on the Barra is variable valve timing or variable cam timing, whatever you really want to call it, which is a system used to adjust the camshaft timing on the fly for improved performance. But it wasn't until 2005 with the introduction of the BA Falcon XR6 Turbo that we saw VCT added to both camshafts rather than just on the intake side. And the dual cam timing system massively improves on efficiency, low-end power, and high-end power. And for the turbocharged Barras, that same dual timing system massively improves how quickly the turbocharger can spool up, effectively giving you much better throttle response. On the bottom end of this engine, the Barra is basically built like a tank. It's heavy, but capable of withstanding some serious abuse. For one, the block is constructed from cast iron and features a lot of material in all the right places. It might be heavy as hell, but it's really burly and holds power extremely well. The pistons, connecting rods, and the crankshaft are all massive overkill for the stock power output. This thing was way overbuilt. In terms of difference between the NA models and the turbocharged models, the Turbo Barra is heavily based on the standard 244 horsepower naturally aspirated Barra, but the turbo engine gets stronger pistons with a lower compression ratio, Inconel exhaust valves, and a red valve cover. Otherwise, the two are almost completely identical. Other notable features on the bottom end are the oil pump bolts, which screw in horizontally to the crank caps. This is a little odd, but it effectively makes the oil pump a stressed member of the bottom end, helping to further improve rigidity. And with time, the turbocharged Barra became better and better. With the XR6 Turbo Falcon becoming extremely successful, the Ford Performance Vehicles division got involved with further development in 2004, creating the FPV Typhoon. They equipped the Typhoon with an improved airbox, a larger intercooler, stronger connecting rods, a new fuel pump, and an improved exhaust system, taking the Barra all the way to 362 horsepower. 4 years later, they were at it yet again, this time bumping the Barra all the way to 436 horsepower, thanks to the addition of stronger pistons, a larger intercooler, different fuel injectors, and a larger turbo. But what makes the Barra such a special engine isn't what it can do in stock form. Quite frankly, most people don't care about that at all. The real reason that the Barra is such a special engine, and the reason that I'm sitting here arguing it to be the best inline-six engine of all time, is solely because of what it is capable of when pushed to the absolute limits. It didn't take long after the first XR6T was released for tuners to start messing with them to see what they were capable of, and they pretty quickly discovered that this engine could very easily withstand 500 horsepower. But they just kept pushing it further and further and further, and yet the Barra just kept taking it without missing a beat. Perhaps one of the better examples to demonstrate this is Tunnel Vision's 4th generation Falcon that you see in front of you now, thanks to the guys over at Full Boost. This particular Barra engine has a stock block, heads, and camshafts, but that doesn't matter because it can handle around 1,000 wheel horsepower. Of course, you need a lot of aftermarket parts to get to that power level, but the point here is that the bottom end, the cams, the head, and the block are all completely stock. And another good example would be Dion Amato's drag car, which uses a D-stroke Barra engine at 3.9 liters of displacement. That's paired with a massive precision turbo, producing somewhere around 2,000 horsepower and sending this car down the quarter mile in the high 5-second range. That is absolutely absurdly fast for anything that is using an engine that came out of a regular sedan. Granted, this particular car is a pro stock car from the US and it's specifically designed for drag racing, but the point still stands. But unfortunately, the Barra will probably never have the popularity of the Toyota 2JZ or the Nissan RB26, pretty much for only one reason, and that's that it was only available in Australia and New Zealand, leaving all the other massive markets completely in the dark. And while this makes the Barra readily available and somewhat cheap to buy in Australia and New Zealand, anywhere outside of that, you're gonna have to import it into your country. We probably won't see the Barra explode in popularity in the States until the Falcon XR6T is old enough to be easily imported to the US, which requires it to be about 25 years old. And because of its lack of use in the States, there isn't nearly as much aftermarket support for the Barra compared to engines which are readily available in the States. That's not to say that there is no aftermarket for this engine. As a matter of fact, there's a pretty large aftermarket for it, but it is extremely minuscule as compared to a 2JZ or an RB26 aftermarket. On top of that, the Barra is a very large engine and can't easily fit into as many applications as other inline-six engines, or even V8s like the Chevy LS. It's a pretty tall and long engine, and it's not particularly lightweight either. And if you ask me, the BMW N54 might actually be a more fair comparison for the Barra rather than the 2JZ or the RB26. Hell, even BMW's older naturally aspirated inline-six engines are absolutely amazing, albeit a little underpowered as compared to their later turbocharged engines. The best of which is arguably the BMW S58, which is known for being capable of producing over 1,000 horsepower on a completely stock bottom end with zero changes, although bolt-ons on the top end are required. You could honestly even make the case that BMW should hold the title for the best inline-six engines ever, but that's not a topic we're going to get into in this video. Don't get me wrong though, I am not saying that the Toyota JZ or the Nissan RB series of engines are bad. Both of them are fantastic at making power and many other things. However, I am saying with all things considered, the Ford Barra is better in most categories compared to both of those engines. And the Barra is quite frankly better than BMW's best engine, which you could either argue, N54, S55, S58. It's better than all of them. It's just flat out a fantastic engine in many different ways, and it's arguably the best six-cylinder engine of all time. Unfortunately though, Ford Australia killed the Barra in 2016. It died alongside the Falcon and the Territory because of high labor costs and unprofitability with the engine and the cars being constructed locally in Australia. AKA they couldn't abuse cheap foreign labor, so they just stopped building it in Australia entirely and left a bunch of people without jobs. But I want to hear your thoughts on it, so get down in the comments below, let me know what you think of the Ford Barra. Is it really the best inline-six engine of all time? I think so. I want to know what you think. While you're down there, smash the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, get subscribed so you don't miss out on future videos, check out some of the other stuff on the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.